doing?
Are you being?
Not particularly today.
Are you becoming?
Yes.
Actually, it's possible I can move this desk back a little bit so I can push you an outlet. Can I just move this?
You just, like, read from there.
I don't think my charger goes far enough, but I can try.
Mac is just so insuperior. Here, we need to move this one.
Yeah, do you want to do that? I think Mac is good. They're extension cords, I just didn't buy one. Move it back a little more. Sorry.
Mac is the only place we have to buy an extension cord for your charger for a reasonable amount of business.
True. Okay, you have it open?
Yeah.
Cool. Chris, you good?
Yep.
Cool. So everyone else good? Cool. Part 1 is the framework. The role of the judges to promote critical education. They have an obligation to make debate away for challenging social norms. Judges have an obligation to help debaters break down oppressive biases. Giroux writes, given the current assault on democratic life, educators must create conditions to learn social change at various sites, and pedagogists' version of dominant power suggests knowledge affirms oppositional culture work. Central engineering students have skills fighting just world founded on racial inequalities. The role of the ballot is to endorse the better liberation strategy for the oppressed. Debate to analyze maternal harms. Distraction is bad. We should focus on oppression and ways to resolve it. Curry writes, despite the emancipation activity pointing real consequences, one addressing racism, many see adjudication of sociological realities as the conquest of ideal theory and Lincoln Douglas debates. The conceptual chasm and actual problem side frame promise theoretically the most obstacle of the anti paradigm. Part 2 is imposing nuclear apartheid. South Africa, only African country nuclear power. The entire continent is going nuclear in the status quo. Luke writes, to boost their economies, Africa's larger economy, South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria have decided it's time to go nuclear. South Africa leads the way, only Africa has nuclear power, and Russia's pressuring South Africa to develop nuclear power, encouraging corruption with external industries, Winkler shows. In 2014, government took an abstract approach to nuclear build, displaying urgency to seal a large deal with Russia. The speeding secret matter which the government took place with massive implications, led to suspicion of corruption. The nuclear build deal lived new on steroids, and the goal of nuclear expansion to Africa is rooted in colonialism. Western elites pressed South Africa to join the nuclear club. Adam 1 writes, South Africa and a documented player in worldwide atomic development's Manhattan Project was the code for U.S. efforts to develop the atomic bomb, use uranium sourced in the Congo, nuclear government led to global search for uranium. U.S. to turn to South Africa to extract resource. Atomic Energy Act enabled South Africa upon its own domestic nuclear programs. 6 months after apartheid regime came to power, and colonialism continues to say that Western pressures false needs because other countries they need to participate in global capitalism, spreading globality. Marcuse writes, the former colonial areas enter a destination with a population trained in technological rationalities. Industrialization occurs in a vacuum. A historical situation which social capital required must gain from the capitalists themselves. The superimposed development of these countries will sum to neocolonialism, terrorist fiction, accumulation, and the result is modern day apartheid and environmental racism. Chen writes, South Africa's been followed on historical trajectories from imperialism to modern-day resource exploitation, nuclear power, tied with the roots of apartheid and massive security state. First time they were integrated, the global economy was providing ingredients of U.S. and Britain as prize they were given research reactors during apartheid. Nuclear industry was just a smokescreen for armed creditor in the Civil War. Destructive impacts of technology, often paired with environmental racism. At every point in the nuclear production chain, industry harms that disproportionately share minority communities, while the rest of the harms along the nuclear power continues to fight a losing battle against corporate line that technological advances have led. Africa's one nuclear power plant is an emblem of a ruthless pursuit at the public expense. Advocates started disfranchised communities. The harms nuclear power advocates social parties and apartheid. Thus, the plan. The African Union's member countries also prohibit the production of nuclear power. Wise explains Greenpeace advocacy. Greenpeace made a halt to expand nuclear power production, not only in South Africa, but a halt to the rest of the African continent. To expand nuclear power in Africa is extremely irresponsible given the societal collapse upon the continent. We should learn from history about nuclear power is dirty and dangerous, marked by secrecy. The government's dream become a nuclear power state. Just stop before it's too late. Part 3 is freedom. The plan is key to solve the harms that occur in the status quo since first, ban nuclear power is key to South Africa as other states to ensure renewable sovereignty. A shift to renewables likely outcome. Winkler shows the expansion of South Africa's power generating capacity is necessary condition for growth. The Department of Energy is supposed to transforming the energy production to mix from coal to a more balanced setup. Allocate more wind and solar panel renewable energy technologies. South Africa's need for nuclear power in the mix is re-examined. Configuration without nuclear energy were optimal in many scenarios. And banning nuclear energy is that's the first step to growing renewables. South Africa doesn't even use their energy for nuclear power due to failed build attempts, so it overall fails. Adam 2 writes, South Africa spent 13 years between the pebble bed modular reactors, wasting billions in the process. The state canceled the project, wrote off the moment it spent. The government hell-bent on the nuclear solution to energy supply crisis. It the same money important to renewable energy generation. Countries get cheaper, greener solutions. South Africa's energy situation, while cheap and reliable, is expensive, unreliable. And banning nuclear power is key to ensure African states use renewable energy instead. Atom 3. South Africa mass renewable energy sources from wind biomass, some of the best solar resources in the world. Harness resources that might get a huge net contribute to averting climate change, but eliminate nuclear energy. Renewable energy is ready and can be developed at a large scale, creating a rival. South Africa does not have to build coal-fired power stations by 2030 for its electricity combustion sources to 9 from 2050. And second, nothing short of a bank and soft regulations won't work and get circumvented. Atom 4. South African national regulation operates under budgetary and human resource constraints, lack of political will to take more than powerful money interest, a large portion of income derives from licensing services, so more new activities exist, the more income energy engines, this creates a bias in favor of the industry. Skip the next card. Next is framing. Discourse in Africa is key. White European knowledge production often excludes mainstream media, trying to shift focus into Africa's performative, active imperialism, Westland rights. Number of deaths and enslaved people in Africa is astounding. This is occurred in the West. A situation called World War III. 80% of conflicts occurred in Africa, not even 10% of Western media outlets discussion. Media ignores Africa, so oversimplifies them. The result of deliberate choices on part of the people to position to respond to responsible affects and results of the conflict. Second, concrete reality structures against black people have reality to confront. They cannot do with philosophizing of their alternative. Give their everyday existence. Cone 4. The world's earthly existence, where human beings are enslaved, where laws passing into the oppression, where oppressed people fight back. The world is white, where white and black people live. The latter strive for a little more to breathe in, the former doing everything can to destroy black realities. The world is not a metaphysical entity or an ontological problem, as some philosophers would have us believe, and very concrete. It is fighting rats and being kicked by police around, market police around. Third, particularism is good, root cause claims and overarching structures, ignore specific injustices. We should analyze specific things. Papa 16. Pragmatist approaches are distinguished from their starting points and just at large. This seems critique of accomplished through critique of modernity. Pragmatism is not an importance of power structures. We must not history looking to the weight of the past and present. Pragmatist approach takes treatment of political situation, not a global social pathology, consequences of colonialism are to its very particular injustices. Mark injustices.
Cool. Alright, ready?
Yep.
So what kind of nuclear power is South Africa going for? Is it like weapons, uranium?
Uranium.
Uranium?
I would say they can use it to build weapons, but the plan is a discussion about uranium mining and environmental injustice. I do not fiat a ban of weapons.
Okay, no, I'm not asking that. I'm not going to go for tea or anything. My question is, can the plan result, or will South Africa get weapons in the status quo?
I would say they themselves are not going to build them. There's a risk that, like, terrorists could, for example, but the plan does not really speak to that. It's a question of environmental injustice and global imperialism, which the 1AC resolves.
Okay, so global imperialism you resolve?
I don't fully ameliorate it, but I take a step in the right direction. The 1AC doesn't have to solve all global problems. The Pappas evidence and the underview is fantastic in this question.
Okay, what is the Pappas evidence?
Sure. This says we should focus on particularism and specific instantiations. Root cause claims miss the boat because we can't ameliorate overall social injustice. For example, ending slavery was good. The state was obviously bad, but they can do a certain good thing like that. Likewise, we should consider these specific instantiations of injustice. Root cause claims like cap bad, modernity bad, etc. Ignore specific instantiations.
Okay, so how is this what is the link differential between us saying, like, capitalism is bad, and you saying, like, modern-day racism, environmental racism, coloniality spreads globally?
Sure. The difference is that
literally makes a claim about globalized forms of violence.
Sure. The difference is that the plan does something tangible to address those issues. Whereas a vague,
what does the
rejecting...
Plan, well, that's a better question. What does the plan do?
Oh, sure. That was, like, 2 minutes of the app.
No, I know, but, like, do you, like, go to South Africa and, like, talk to the guys and just, like, hey...
Oh, sure. You
no
mean
more nuclear power.
You mean the pre-fiat implications? Sure. The Westland evidence says that discourse of Africa is key. We often gloss over it in Western media. So discussion of the app is key. I'll quote the card.
You don't need to quote the card. I know what the card says.
Oh, great.
My question is, what does the actual implementation of the plan do? The only argument you have as to reason...
I would say discussion of the plan in academic spaces, especially in the West, is key to ensure we gain a better understanding of these issues. So, also, I would just say it's just generally advocacy skills matter. Discussing intricacies of policy spills over to the real world. We're never going to become, like, people who just, like, burn down society or reject capitalism, but doing real things later on and learning about those things creates informed advocates.
So your Winkler evidence indicates that Russia is encouraging corruption. Why does Russia, and where is this evidence from, and why does Russia have a unique, like, hold on South Africa?
Well, this is from November 2015, and it says that South Africa can't really develop its own nuclear power, so they're looking to Western countries, so they're often being forced into it. Russia's pressuring them, diplomatically and internationally, to have nuclear deals. So it's not an authentic move. It's a top-down action from another state that's causing imperialism. And the plan resolves that by ensuring no more nuclear power, which is a bottom-up strategy.
All right, and then so the plan implements it in all the nations of the African Union, right?
Yes, the plan.
So what are the nations in the African Union?
Sure. So the evidence discusses Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. It's across all of Africa. I will defend all of Africa.
Okay, that's cool. Starting correct. please read?
Okay.
Can you email it out?
Sure. Let me just get a new pen. This pen's not really working too well.
It's one off in case.
One off?
Yep.
Okay. On case, were you starting?
The underview.
I figured.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Love you, Raffi. I did sign out.
What?
It's sent out.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'll check. Got it. Or actually, I have a paper. Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
Cool. The absent consumption and reappropriation of native epistemology offers us only what we already heard and want to continue to hear. If the app is so important to accurate understanding of ingenuity, why are they still on the land? Arvin, Tuck, and Real 13, non-indigenous, appropriation into nature, relies upon stereotypical notice, a new special to hold a victimizing story, the pan-range renovation, resulting in poverty porn response, to create a message that we have someone more than poverty, students illustrate the confidence, intelligence, tradition, love, perseverance, and hope, playing Indian, and helping victimizing Indians are both methods of perpetual violence against native people's united complexity, and describing their hope for the future. Native feminist theories are not easily simple, stand against white savior, white women saviors, financial allies reflect on why in what they are interested in engaging with native communities, they expect native people to weigh considerably on complex consideration. This is definitely linked to the idea that colonization arguments of the affirmative indicates they do not focus on the native understandings of what it means to actually be able to engage in colonization, which obfuscates the idea. And the one I see ventriloquist translating the pain of the oppressed, their pain-centered politics makes damage subjectivity to the states of right day. They enable the subalterns to speak, but only in terms of their suffering, enabling self-hate. This is particularly true of their idea that the South Africans are so bad that they won't have any power over the control of Russia. The Tucking Yang 14. The fear of change which harm must be proven to convince and adjudicated reputations are deserved. The reliance upon Western dosage of power requires disenfranchised community to position themselves to be effective and powerless. Communities are left with a narrative that tells them they are broken. Academic demonstration fantasy with troubling narratives of pain and troubling words, voyeurism, and conceptual implacability. No need to hear your voice when I can talk about you better than you can speak for yourself. I'm the speaking subject to, or the center of my talk. The reference self is made. Continue by telling the story of the subaltern subject, or the social science and maintaining logic of domination are thought to err in the beginnings like the genocide of indigenous peoples have been reduced and unfortunate by byproduct of birthing a new great nation. Such amnesia is required because settler colonialism carried by persistence drive to make itself invisible and inevitable, and settler colonialism is integral to the formation of slavery and its afterlife. Anti-black racism is an inadequate frame absent of understanding of colonialism. Tangle 13. Settler colonialism changes concepts of black lives, simply slavery is afterlife, while slavery should be active frame. Settler colonialism structures black life, the genocide of native people, perpetually making the settler status not to stop existing when they run into black bodies away. Settler colonial power works just changes. Settler colonialism shapes and structures anti-black racism. Settler colonial power works through structures and power that makes black cabinet fungibility socially dead. Slavery and anti-racism are not adequate to understand the process that create blackness, cut the part of blackness, I cut in the document, and vote negative to refuse metaphorical decolonization and embrace the material work of decolonization. Their move to settler innocence ensures that their theory never becomes action, especially when they fiat the plan. Tuck and Yang 12. Language decolonization has been superficially adopted in education, supplanting social justice approach to the decenter settler perspective. Decolonization is a distinct project from other civil rights projects. Is too far, often subsumed with no regard for how colonization wants something different. These discussions make no mention of indigenous peoples who are the recognition of sovereignty or the contribution of indigenous intellectuals to decolonization. This domesticized decolonization with metaphor-based decolonization kills the very possibility of decolonization. Resetters whiteness resettles the theory to the extent that in the sense of the settler decolonization cannot be easily graphed into existing discourse. Decolonization doesn't have a synonym. The too easy adopting of decolonizing discourse gets in the way of potential meaningful alliances. The attention won't get anyone off the hook from the hard, unsettling work of colonization. Now go to case starting in the underview. Our argument why African discourse is key. One, academic discussion is bad. If the Tuck and Yang evidence indicates that it only allows us to be able to consume the suffering of the others. This is particularly true when he said that South Africa is such a weak nation state, they're going to be completely controlled by Russia. That is the entirety of our representation argument. Second, the Abney skills are solving alternative. You only create a false hope in the idea of theotic places of debate. But our argument is that the alternative allows us to shift towards more pragmatic understanding of what it means to decolonization. There is no such thing as a metaphorical decolonization. That is our Tuck and Yang evidence. Now you say specifics is good. One, it's a link to your attempt to understand colonization. Something that is not universal is bad. Our evidence indicates that there is no such thing as something other than decolonization, which means either A, we are universalizing decolonization, which is the impact on the or B, we are a specific notion because decolonization cannot be expressed in any other way. Second argument is that Mercuse links into this. There's literally no link difference between what we do and what they do because they only indicate that the idea of global forms of power are bad, which is a generalizing claim that doesn't have any specifics. Top of the case. We'll concede their framing arguments that we need to have material education. The entire case, the reason why that is true. Our critique is a huge link turns all their non-ideal theory. Why are you still on the land? It's a question of geophilosophy or their subject position. Why do you still exist on the land? When you say that we need pragmatic changes, there is no good reason for this. Now you say nuclear apartheid first. Nukes is key to energy producer to shift away from fossil fuels. Renewables require fossil fuels and can produce enough. Brook on L14. Nuclear fission technology is the only development nuclear energy source that is capable of delivering the enormous quantities of everything we need to run modern industrial society safely in a sustainable way. The first phase should convert a major part of the word energy generation capacity for fossil to nuclear. Renewables will be hard for us to supply the need amount needed. They are an intermittent backing up, depending on backup power. This backup power derived from combustion of fossil fuels, and renewables won't solve warming. Only nukes do. Internal link turn. Krish 9. We need to develop 13,000 GWE of carbon-free power within the next 25 years. We're to limit the atmospheric carbon concentration to 450 parts per million. Current global solar production today is only 10 GWE. Compare that to 2 GWE and 13,000 GWE. All of the renewable experts agree nuclear has to play a role in solving the climate crisis. If you use desert-based concentration solar thermal, we'd have to install 80,000. Use 37 diameter dishes cover 100 square meters every day for 30 years, and then we'd have to have cost effectively store all that power and deliver it when you need it. You have a reliable base load of power, all without generating any CO2 emissions. With solar, you'd have to have some way Azure is doing, which makes it nearly 10 times more expensive than nuclear coal, and energy demand will continue to increase. Nuclear power provides a way to meet demand and curb emissions. Wilson 12. So world energy demand may increase 47% by 2035. Taking into consideration expected changes suggests 22% unless we introduce more potent new energy-saving mechanism measures, which will falling short of our mitigation goal. Increasing reliance on nuclear energy can further global emissions to reduce emissions over the entire life cycle. Only very small amounts of CO2 are emitted. Only cumulative emissions of nuclear power have relatively similar emission levels as hydroelectric and wind. Additions of nuclear power diversifies power infrastructure, diminishes dependency on fossil resource imports, and nuclear is sustainable. Brooke et al. 14. Commercially uranium-fueled nuclear power plants provide the world with clean, economical, reliable energy. Russell blends the next century for the basis of already identified uranium deposits. In fact, the use of fast neuron fusion reactors to transform uranium into an inexhaustible energy source because of their ability to harvest about 100 times more energy than the same amount of mined uranium. The amount of depleted uranium available to stored together with used fuel elements contains enough energy to power the world for 700 years. Mining of small quantities of uranium will satisfy global energy needs economics for as long as the human civilization will endure, and proliferation will be slow. Temper 9. Nuclear weapons are so controversial and expensive that only countries that deem critical to survival go through the triple acquiring them. South Africa, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan gave up theirs in the early 90s. Brazil and Argentina dropped in incent programs. The risk of rapid spread are low, especially given Clinton suggesting the U.S. would extend a nuclear umbrella over the region, and nuclear proliferation prevents war. Back in 2K, the signal feature of nuclear weapons of their return benefits destructive capacity and the impossibility of defending against their use any state with their body's number can inflict unacceptable damage. The risk of nuclear weapons make the state extremely cautious. The state would be less likely to start a war in action ways which might lead to war. This caution could terrorize any state facing a nuclear armed foe. Nuclear weapons make war hard to start. Non-nations that have nuclear weapons have strong incentive to use them responsibly. The theoretical conclusion bolsters the historical point explaining why the Cold War was a long peace and strengthens the expectation that the same effects will be found in the case of would-be proliferators. Now, though, to line by line of all their arguments they have in the case of a further say nuclear apartheid in South Africa is the only African country with nuclear power. Evidence indicates that they were declining nuclear weapons in the status quo, which means there's no reason you can explain your claim. The second argument is that even if they do develop nuclear power, there's no reason that this will particularly be bad and still up. Now, on the Winkler evidence, we have linked during the representations of Winkler evidence indicate that Russia is encouraging corruption because it shows that South Africa is some kind of weak. Second is that there's no reason that Russia has a unique hold over South Africa. All the other people have interest in the region. For example, a lot of Africa is owned by China, which is an indicative reason why Russia is not a key internal link. Now, you say nuclear expansion is colonialist. Our argument is the answer to this above. Your ideas are colonialist. The second is that it is the best methodology to be able to resolve your impacts, even if it is true that it is at least somewhat colonialist. Our argument is that the pragmatic change of decolonization have to take a form of nuclear energy production because it's the only way to be able to actually reduce the tremendous impact of the global south, which internal link terms accuse evidence indicates that colonialism spreads globally because the global south is one that's hurt by the global warming that you're unable to solve. And the current context of your app, you say modern day apartheid, environmental racism, that has been linked by the critique as well because we indicate that the idea of racism and the idea of apartheid and slavery has to be understood in the context of settler colonialism because settler innocence is the root cause of all of your claims.
Okay, ready for cross-ex?
1 second.
Okay, yeah, take your time. Hey. Okay, ready?
Let me sit down. I'm sorry.
You can sit, yeah, I'm gonna stand. You can sit. Ready?
Yeah.
Status of the alt?
Unconditional.
Can the world occur in the world of the alt?
No.
No floating picks? Great.
Nope.
Let's discuss your case arguments. Point to me a single one of these terms that mentions South Africa anywhere. You just read some generic terms.
Right, so the new sustainable evidence indicates that South Africa is bad. Also, a lot of our evidence is in the context of world energy production needs, which is indicative
But you've
of
conceded that South Africa specifically has enough renewables to meet all demand. Where does any of your evidence indicate
Right,
that
our
the plan
evidence
wouldn't
indicates
work?
a question of the global economy. If you're going to try to go for an argument in the 1AR that indicates that
No,
somehow
I'm going to go for a
South
reason why my
Africa
plan solves that you've conceded. Point to me a
Right.
single line that mentions South Africa anywhere in these
None of our
charts.
questions specific to South Africa.
Great,
That's what
let's
you
discuss. Yeah, okay, great. I didn't want that. Let's discuss the critique. Your tuck and yang evidence, this is suffering reps bad that I can't portray suffering and stuff.
Yeah.
So is it okay for us to condemn terrible genocide? Like, can we say, talk
Yes.
about the Holocaust in academic spaces?
Yes.
Then why is the app any
The
different?
question is representing the idea of the pain represented. For example, we think a good example of is talking about Jewish life in the context of the Holocaust. Great. Talking about how South Africa is so bad at being able to control their own
Where
country
did I do that?
Russia's
Wait,
gonna
hold
run
on.
in.
Where did I do
Dude,
that?
that's your internal link to the idea of the Russia advantage, which is the example.
I didn't say they're so weak. I said
no,
Russia
your argument
has
was like
control.
Russia has so much pull in South Africa.
So if we're discussing something like the Holocaust, for example, we're not able to say that like Hitler was subjugating the Jews and doing terrible
Our
things like
question
that.
They may be true, but it's a question of your representations. Also,
What's the difference? Explain the difference.
Right, the difference is the fact that the representations of the way in which you engage in discussions of those pain is important. Centering native perspectives would be better.
You're
also,
talking yang,
the first
sure, that's
thing
fine,
is
that's
really
fine.
good at
I'm moving
independent
on.
reasons.
Your tuck and yang evidence is not at all specific to the app. It's about indigenous people in the U.S. What's the link to the 1AC
Where does it
then?
say specifically the United States?
I've read a lot of the tuck and yang stuff. It's about indigenous people living in the U.S.
Where in the card does it say it's about the United States?
Point to me a line that mentions Africa anywhere in the reps. Point to me a line.
So neither of us can point a line that indicates something. It probably just means it's making a general
No, I want to
line.
know the link to the app. I don't think there is one. Point to me a
Right, so
line.
the entirety... So I'll go through the first link, which you were cutting me off on. The first link is the idea of settler innocence. You don't take into account your subject position when you speak about issues. This is an independent link. You cannot say you're breaking down... Why are you still on the land, Raffi?
Wait, how does the alt resolve that then?
Right,
the alt,
so the alt allows us... First, the rejection of the affirmative is integral. It's not just a vote negative to reject the app. Literally, Tuck Yang evidence indicates the rejection of metaphorical forms of decolonization is necessary to read...
Okay, are you still on the land right now, Grant?
Yes.
Then how can you reject all forms of it? You're literally
right,
on the land.
Our argument is that is a movement towards a material work.
Wait, hold on, Grant. So we don't reject everything then, right? Just certain things? Do you reject every instance of colonialism or just some?
We reject the instances in academic spaces.
Okay, you're in academic spaces. You're reading off a computer.
But it's not obviously the question of your representation of suffering. We don't sit here and say native people and colonized people. South Africa is so
the Westland evidence in the 1AC says that we often gloss over these injustices and blind ourselves to them.
Yeah.
If we ignore these injustices, how can we ever get real solutions?
Right. The alternative does not ignore them. It restructures the way in which we talk about them.
What's the way you talk about them that's different from how the app
Right. So the critique focuses on the concept of indigeneity and how it relates to the idea of the settler, which is something that is different in the app.
I'm starting prep. Okay, 142. It'll be the case. I'll send you the new cards I'm reading. The case starting on the roll the ballot. Then it'll be straight down the app, unlike the underview stuff. Then his turns and the critique. I flowed your turns separately, so I'll answer those once I finish extensions of the app proper. But I'll signpost. Let me know when you get it. But yes, I'm starting on the roll the ballot with Curry evidence.
Just the bottom of the AC?
No, it'll be the roll the ballot with Curry.
No, I mean, it's like the stuff at the bottom of the app.
Oh, yeah. So roll the ballot, then the advantages, like the first one in particular, then the underview, and your
So
turn.
it starts with like the Chandler evidence?
No. It starts with the file, the header below it. Oh, it's not saved.
Don't worry about it, dude.
You can just, okay, you sure?
Yeah, can I just like see your...
Yeah, definitely.
Fine.
Okay.
Chris, you good?
Cool. You ready?
That one's fine. Yep.
It's a question of who better solves oppression. They do literally nothing to solve. People are suffering genocide in the status quo, and the plan is key to solve. Extend the role about with Curry. We should analyze material conditions. Abstraction is bad. Your thought process is supposed to do something, nothing overall. Conceding the role about is game over. He has no tangible solution. He says the case solves the case. We're on the land right now, but the alt doesn't get rid of the land anyway. They've conceded the alt is a mindset shift, but not a tangible solution to oppression. People are still suffering genocide. What does Grant do? How does he solve oppression? Means the alpha's overall key. Now the solvency. You have no evidence about it. You literally no evidence about it. South Africa coming out of the 1 and C. Whereas the plan was very specific, extended the engine with Winkler. The plan is to ensure renewable energy right now in the status quo. They can fund the entire economy. Things like wind, solar power, etc. are sufficient to solve the Nixon atoms. The nuclear power is not even being used in the status quo because of failed build attempts. So it's not used for energy with impact calc here. This outweighs their offense versus delinks all their turns. It means that they don't even use nuclear energy in the status quo. They can't solve warming. The plants aren't even being used right now, which takes out their offense second. And Link turns the K as well. The absent act of sovereignty and a way of taking back the harms that occur. South Africa is not reliant on the West anymore. They can have an autonomous action, which is overall key. Now the interview. The Westland evidence was just massively unrecovered and is a disside to the alternative. Except we should analyze discussion of African media itself. We often gloss over social realities by focusing discourses. It literally says South African conflicts is equivalent to World War III. Your two arguments here miss the boat. You said the alt solves the case in advocacy question. The alt doesn't do anything. People are still suffering. You shut down that discussion by saying we should discuss real life considerations, which is comparatively worse. Then it's in the Cone evidence, which was completely dropped by the 1 and C. Issues of race and material, material issues, and not really philosophical. People suffering don't think in terms of ontology or epistemology, but real life concerns, which is this side of the alternative, and a reason why the AF outweighs. Now their turns. Your first answer was Brooks, why renewables are bad, nuclear is key, but it wasn't about Africa anywhere. They conceded the reason why renewables would solve specifically in the plan, which mean the AF's overall key. Your second response was Kirsch, why I can't solve warming. That was not an advantage rather than the 1 AC. All I say is that the plan is key to insert sovereignty. It also wasn't Africa specific. They say proliferation. Guess what? The AF doesn't have prolif impact. South Africa banned weapons a long time ago, which means they have no reason why it occurs then, and they don't solve prolif. The critique. The link work done in the 1 and C was really, really weak. They have no good link to the 1, why the app actually applies. First, no link added up or train anyone who's weak or suffering. I just said that injustice occurs in the status we have an obligation to solve. I never said anywhere that South Africa doesn't have power. I just said Russia's doing bad things. They would justify shutting out discussion of the Holocaust, for example, by saying that Jews are subjugated by Hitler, which is comparatively worse. Second permutation of the alt every time, except say 1 AC. It is perm double bind. The net case, in the case of net benefits, they've considered reasons why the plan's overall effective. Even if suffering reps are generally bad, this one manifestation is key to solve for repression, which make the app overall key. Third turn, the absent act of sovereignty. South Africans want the plan. They've conceded the reason why all the app authors are mostly African scholars who are endorsing the IAC, which means that the plan is not an act of imperialism. They want the app. You speak for them by not including that discussion, which is comparatively worse. Fourth, they bite themselves. The alt literally says that we still ensure type of discussion. The double binding cross-link was very clear. They say discussion sometimes matters, but they don't have a clear line when the discussion is good. Any discussion they foster with South Africa would link to the K logically, and they say the alt allows for discussion. Either they silence people or they don't allow the discussion, which is a disside of the alternative. 5, turn the attempt to shut down images suffering enables totalitarianism. Klenman 96. Erasure of social appearance suffering, so that's the case with starvation in China, accounts are suppressed to have public witnessing for secret history, an act of political resistance. They were allowed to keep memories of things denied. The totalitarian state rules by denying collective experience suffering. More terrifying things overdone by public images of atrocity must draw upon image human suffering to identify human needs and crowd responses. 6, turn suffering is key to motivate action. If African oppression is so bad, doing nothing is doing something. The plan is key to injury take action. Campbell 12. No such thing as a totally fatigued individual. Results of the studies show those are initially disconnected or biased victims of a social problem. The level of media consumption does not appear to be influential. Development of compassion and fatigue itself. There is significant cultural resistance to apply to millions of individuals form collective resistance and communities. This is in opposition to fatigue thesis. Emotional response of subjects meant that compassion is fatigue.
You know what prep I left?
You had
250.
I think it might have been around that. I wrote it down. I think. Let me check. Yeah, I didn't write it down, actually.
It's,
You can take 250. Yeah, totally fine.
what's the date of the evidence you have that indicates Africa has enough renewables?
Oh, sure. 2015.
Okay. Order is the critique, then the case.
Do you have any new cards you're reading or no? No? Okay.
And it's kind of going to start with an overview about the thesis of the K.
Okay.
Anybody not ready?
I'm good.
The structure of modernity is that of the settler. This answers all of his current analysis. He's conceded our impact card that indicates that the structural antagonism of racism and the ability for us to be able to have apartheid in the first place in slavery is only built on the back of settler colonialism, where there's always a settling of the land that already existed before. The idea of slavery is ultimately predicated on the possibility of us going over there and taking the land in the first place, which means settler colonialism internal link turns all of their arguments about apartheid. Why does apartheid exist, Chris? You know why? Because the fact that we went over to South Africa decided that we were going to instate white hierarchies, which is exactly the reason why we internal linked to the root cause of all of his arguments there. They are now all the reasons he makes that we link don't make any sense in the context of a critique. It's a question of representations, which means that if we're winning that his reps are bad, there's a link differential there, and even if we are still in the land, we don't claim to be innocent. That's the first link, which I'm going to go really hard for because he's functionally conceded it, which is a link differential between us and our representations are different. You have conceded that the alternative allows us the ability to move towards a new form of understanding what it means to be indigenous. We do not focus on the material change. Now, on the line by line, first is permutation to the all do all of the time to decide the plan. The tucking yang makes it absolutely clear that SAP's alternative solvency. There is no metaphor. There is no other language to describe decolonization besides decolonization, which means that any other methodology, SAP's alternative solvency, only refuses the ability for us to understand academic spaces. Second, that the permutation doesn't make any sense in the context of an academic critique. It's a question of representation, which you cannot perm out of because you cannot change the reps of the app. Now, you say no one is weak and suffering. You said Russia's doing bad things. One Raffi loses on this link argument. He has conceded the similar innocence argument from the argument talk in Marilla evidence. He only assumes the economy of settler suffering, especially when it comes to context of being able to resolve colonialism. Our evidence indicates that the idea of settler innocence is based on your speaking position. The fact that Raffi will stand up and read an app that talks about how we need to stop Africa. Our argument is how many more Africa apps does it take before Raffi gets off the land? The answer is infinitely many. He'll never leave. That's the whole point of the entirety of the affirmative. The idea that the pre-theon implications only obfuscate the material conditions that can be able to do things because there will always be another plan, another idea that we can talk about Africa more and more, which only refuses the ability for us to get off the land. This answers all of his analysis. Now, he says that so he's conceded the settler innocence argument. This argument is about the question of positioning within academic spaces and your representations from where you stand, which is something he misses the boat on. Even if he's correct that all of his representations in the app are good, he does not answer the specific link to the context of speaking position in relationship to indigeneity and settler colonialism. Now, the pain narratives argument. Here's a couple arguments. Since African scholars, you speak for them, he says there's no link. One, there's no worthless claim about why they're all African scholars. The second, the African scholars are not necessarily indigenous scholars, which means there's a link differential here. Your arguments are not specific in the context of indigenous people, which is just another way where you can obfuscate the discussion by being able to constantly move around and say that they're African scholars or American scholars or they're specific scholars, but it doesn't question the unique cause of indigeneity. Third is that it's a question of reps again. Our arguments indicate that a question of your representations of your African scholars are bad, even if they are African. It does not take you out the link differential on tucking yang evidence. Our tucking yang evidence is really, really good. It indicates that the use of pain narratives in debate basically functions as a form of pornography where we only consume the suffering of the other. They only become constitutive of their suffering identity. For example, in the context of the app, what is South Africa? They are not a power. They are not a country. They are something that is an advantage to an affirmative. It also indicates that it is an advantage that they need to constantly rely on Russia. His no-link arguments are awful. The analysis we did in the 1NC was pretty good. It indicates that the idea that you can understand South Africa as something that needs to be reliant on an external source or will be influenced by an external source is the only thing that saps the ability for South Africa to stand autonomously. This is exactly the kind of representation arguments we indicate are bad. You can see the alternative to vote negative if you refuse metaphorical decolonization. This answers all of his arguments about why we need to have material change, because our argument is first that the stepping stone It is the necessary point to be able to change academic base in the direction of material change. His affirmative is bad. His try or die for the alternative is point. The second argument is that the focus on material work is good. We do not claim to be innocent settlers. The negative is probably complicit in some form of violence. The whole point is that we do not engage in academic consumption of what it means to be a native, which is a good reason why you can vote negative. Now, the totalitarianism argument. One, neither of these cards are specific to the idea of indigenous representations, which regarded weighing above on this is the claimant evidence and Campbell evidence. Second, that all the reps' good arguments missed the boat on the first link, which means if he's winning this, it's not good. He said it's the same thing as basically allowing the Holocaust to happen. This was answered in cross-ex really well. It's a question of how you represent things. Focus on the life or the resistance or the idea of culture that was created during the Holocaust is a reason that alternative will be able to resolve that. It's a focus on the question of how indigenous populations have culture and able to survive instead of focusing on the idea of colonization as something that's constantly oppressing people. This is a question of representations of structural violence. The K is really simple. He's conceded the positionality link, which means even if he's winning all of his arguments that the reps of the app are good, he is winning a link turn to all of his Curry arguments, which he has conceded in the 1AR. None of his arguments make any sense in the context of his speaking position as someone who is on the land. AC. Starting on his, extensions of the plan. He says the plan's sufficient to fund the economy now, but it doesn't link all over now, so it's good, which we'll get to in a second. You say it link turns takes back hard, but that's not true. That's the rest argument. It means that there are none of your arguments about why you don't have a line in the rest west anymore, not specific to your evidence, nor the rhetoric in which you've engaged in it. Now, you have conceded that the demand is increasing the status quo. That's our Wilson to 12 evidence, which indicates that the plan cannot solve. Our numbers are predictive and indicate that in the future there will be an increased need for energy, which means that they will never be able to sustain it. Or the good piece of evidence we read indicates that the Kirsch evidence indicates that the idea for nuclear power will not be able to solve without nuclear power because renewable resources require 30,000 giant solar panels to be built every second for the next 30 years, which indicates that there's a giant disadd to the affirmative. Even if they have enough now, they will run out soon, which indicates that it's try or die for being able to increase nuclear power in the status quo. He's also conceded that it doesn't link turn the critique because it indicates that it's necessary to take a pragmatic step to be able to solve indigeneity. These arguments in the case he made are really, really bad. And he's also conceded the Brook evidence, which indicates that its nuclear power is sustainable, which is defensive to the plan because it indicates that it allows us to use current resources so well that they can last for hundreds of years. It also indicates that our ability to be able to use these resources is sufficient to be able to power the economy, be able to raise new tech growth that would happen in the future. The case turns are really good. First, nukes don't solve. The reason that matters is because you've conceded that we need more energy in the future, which are predictive models, which indicates nukes don't solve the case. You conceded that demand increases and that nukes are sustainable, which is terminal defense against the app. The 2AR is going to make some great rep-sounding arguments. He conceded far too much of the first link.
Okay. I have 142. Okay, cool. It'll be the case, starting on the underview arguments, like the framing stuff there, then the solvency and his case terms. I'll signpost, but I'm starting on the underview stuff. Ready? You good? Yeah. Grant really messed up the 2R. He's conceding framing issues out of the app. That's why discussion is overall key, which is game over on the K page. The concession of Westland is particularly devastating. Discussion of Africa's key. Western media glosses over discussion and ignores realities that occur in the status quo. It would literally World War III was considered the West. This was conceded out of the 2R, this out of the K. We have to discuss the issues that occur. Our representations are good, which is functionally a framework argument against the K. It means that we should discuss real-life considerations. What will the reps do later on? It's a question of real solutions. The code evidence was dropped through all 5 speeches, and it frames your ballot on substance extended. materiality is important in the context of blackness and indigenous scholarship. Otherwise, we never do anything. People are oppressed, not because our representation is oppressed, because the nuclear power industry is oppressed, because of realities that occur, which are discussions that we're going to solve for, which are reasons why they don't solve. Even if they would link to the K, the alt does nothing at the end of the debate, and they can't resolve the harms that occur, which means they lose. Now the solvency. The wanting to see evidence is much more specific than theirs, discussed by South Africa's key Reeks and Adams. Then in the Reeks and Winkler, the status quo, advance from Winkler, that renewables take over the status quo, South Africa's enough for them, biomass, wind, etc. Then it's in Adams, which is defense control their turns. South Africa doesn't even use nuclear in the status quo. The reactors are not currently online. Build efforts fail. They conceded the reason why they concede both impact calculus in the first argument. Then it delinks all this case terms. He says energy is important, but he's conceded the reason why South Africa can't use energy in the status quo. The argument here is very simple. South Africa is not even using this nuclear energy in the status quo. The evidence says they failed their build attempts. Takes it all this turns. Now, the case turns page proper. He extends the warming impact and demand impact of problems he concedes by response. Extended these aren't impact relevant in terms of the wanting to see the atmosphere way of solving for oppression and shutting down reactors causing environmental damages. He has no impact in any of his turns, so the case that way is now the K. I expected a much better tune-off from Grant in this K. The problem is he simply has no good link to the 1AC. Ixon, the first response is no link. The Africans were trace suffering anywhere. I merely said that Russia's doing things to Africa, but not that South Africa's weak anywhere. Ask yourself the question, what is the link to the 1AC? Why do I portray suffering? I didn't do it anywhere in the 1AC. It's the same logic in things like condemning the Holocaust. It's not a reason I'm saying that they're actually suffering. He says doesn't respond to the first link, but it clearly does. There is no appropriation, no harm occurring. I'm going for the perm, since it solves all their offense. Extend their second response to the alt every time except the 1AC that is reject coloniality and allow the app that he concedes the reason why the perm shields the link. The specific instantiation of the app's a good idea. You say we should reject every inch of colonialism, but the alt is so complicit. You are still in the land itself. Reading off a computer in Western scholarship means you can't solve. You say perms are bad on a reps debate, but I've shown that we both link to some extent. Grant is still using a computer, still on the land itself. When this round ends, he's going to go back to his home in the U.S. He's not going to be off the land. Both of us link to some extent, but the link differential is so small, the case solvency massive outweighs. Finally, X on the fourth response, we both link to the same extent because we're both discussing suffering. They literally said in the alternative that we should discuss suffering a different way. If that's not a link, I don't know it is. He says a different link differential, but I'm showing we both link to the same extent, so the case would outweigh. Look, ask yourself the question, what is the link to the app? The 1AC says it does not portray suffering. I say that there's a continued manifestation of harm that occurs. Either way, though, the framing out of the interview is dropped, so he should lose. Good round.